I haven't made a video in a while, so I thought I'd get off my butt, and there's still a lot of news going on. Most of it is economic news, and most of it is bad news. And I'm recycling these pictures from a previous video. But let me tell you some of the things that are happening. Since I made my last critical video of the Wall Street and the big money people, the big money, American money lenders, handlers, money changers. That comes from the Bible, I believe. Whatever. The latest is that there's a Ponzi scheme that $50 billion Ponzi scheme, which has just collapsed. And they've arrested the fellow who, Bernard Madoff. Madoff? And I'll put this information in the information box, of course, on the right. I'll link articles up. And apparently rich people are being hurt by this one because they had invested, quote-unquote invested, in this rather shady, rather strange. They didn't know. This is amazing to me how wealthy people screw up. I mean, you would think that wealthy people would really know the ins and outs of where they. But you know what? They gave money to this guy Bernard Madoff. I think they gave it because he was their buddy. You know, he was their buddy. They trusted him. He was in the country club. He was always at the golf course of the country club, or he was in some fancy restaurant in Manhattan, and he was a buddy of theirs. So they just gave him money, and they said, "You invest it, fella," and he would come back and he'd say, "Oh, your money, your investments are still going up. They're still going up. They're still going up." Yeah, but whenever he gave out a financial statements, they were really strange. They weren't detailed, and none of it could be backed up, etc. It just was all funny. Oh, excuse me. So he's been arrested by the FBI. People are losing money. It's an international. Gosh, Spain is involved. I think Britain may be involved. But let me remind the remaining Ron Paul folks that. You know what? Let me tell you why I mention Ron Paul all the time. Is because Ron Paul and his fanatics. I think I call them fanatics. Okay. They are completely dominating, or they dominate a lot of the discussion on YouTube, and they dominate a lot of the discussion on other websites. And for example, I'm on Dig, the Dig discussion website. Now, what Ron Paul fails to mention, and the Ron Paul fanatics fail to talk about frequently, surprisingly, they don't want to talk about this because this is the corruption and the greed and the fraud. The corruption, the greed, the fraud, the incompetence of the top of American business. Okay, they have no explanation for that. Really, they have no explanation for it and no solution for it, other than economic disaster and companies folding and people losing jobs right and left. And by the way, and of course the CEOs of these companies, they always make their money. They get their golden parachute, they get their retirement this and retirement that. So is this the free market that we're supposed to believe in? I don't believe in it. Sorry. Okay, that's my editorial comment there for the Ron Paul fanatics. Now they're into the gold. Gold standard is they're really excited, very, very excited about the gold standard. And going back to gold, and they've posted an article by an economist, and this is such an old debate, and I'm going to go into a little bit of history, so prepare for some boredom here, prepare some dates and stuff like that. But this idea of a gold standard, we are putting our currency on a gold standard, which would mean that whenever the government issues paper money, it would have to be backed up by gold, by some sort of gold reserve somewhere. Well, this debate has been going on for maybe since the country was founded. Whether how to create a medium of exchange, which would be paper money, and then how to regulate it and how to back it up, and with gold. Okay, so I looked it up. I did a little Google search, and I remember there's a famous American speech in American politics called the Cross of Gold speech, and it was given by William Jennings Bryan in 1896. 1896, so that would be 100 and some years ago. People were debating, and back then the debate was it was a little bit different. It was whether to go on a gold and silver standard. That was called bimetallism. You'd have two metals, gold and silver, or that was one group. The other group was just the straight gold group. And William Jennings Bryan, who was the leading politician, he ran for president. I believe, and lost. Well, he lost. I know he lost, but he ran for president and lost. He gave a speech called the Cross of Gold, and he was siding with what we call the bimetalist group, which would go on silver and gold. And apparently this was a debate, once again, similar to today, between people who have money and people who don't have money and need to borrow money. The people that have money and were lending money wanted a straight gold standard because they were afraid of inflation. And inflation eats away at inflation helps basically, I think, it helps borrowers, and it hurts people who are lenders and who have already accumulated money, because inflation basically means that their value. Oh, sorry about that interruption there. We're talking about inflation and lenders and debtors and all that stuff. Well, I don't want to go on too much. Let me add two other things at the very end of this video. Timothy Geithner has been nominated for Secretary of Treasury by Obama. Now the New York Times has just come out with a critical editorial. And you Ron Paul people, I see you're still awake, you're still listening. The New York Times has come out with a critical editorial of Geithner and the bailout, and Geithner's role in the bailout and his meetings. He was involved in the Fed and the bank in New York State, and he was involved in these meetings about the bailout with Paulson and Bernanke, apparently, and Goldman Sachs. So there were mistakes made as to whether to bail out Lehman Brothers or whether to let up. And the New York Times is saying that he's got to answer these questions about these meetings and how open they were and how fair they were. And and one other thing. So people are being critical of Geithner already. And the other thing is to mention that Norm Coleman, the Senator Norm Coleman from Minnesota, is involved in a money laundering scheme, perhaps. Well, let's say perhaps. He's under FBI investigation, and it involves, money. You know what? Money, greed. It involves an insurance company, money, lender, borrow, an insurance company, who the Colemans know, and Coleman's wife works for this insurance company, laundering money through a multimillionaire, through the insurance company, ends up in Norm Coleman's. I don't know. Norm Coleman is under investigation. He's just hired some big shot lawyers who handle white collar crime. So the greed and the corruption is on Wall Street, and it's with these people with lots of money. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Is it? Oh, well, whatever.